Welcome everyone. This is Goose Auto Works, and this is what we're doing today. Okay everyone, so this video is actually part of a larger project where I'm upgrading the brakes all around my vehicle. I am piecing together a big brake kit out of other Ford factory components. If you're interested in seeing that video, it will be linked in the description below. But essentially what I'm doing is I want to paint my rear calipers to match the new 6-piston Brembo calipers that will be in the front. These calipers have been painted once before with a brush-on kit, so what I need to do is remove that paint before I spray the new paint on, just to make sure that it adheres well. A couple of things: I do recommend spraying the paint as opposed to a brush-on kit, and I do recommend removing the caliper to be able to do this. One, you're going to be able to get a much better coverage, and then two, if you are spraying especially, you're going to be able to limit the risk of getting excess material on components that you don't want to have paint on. So for this I'm going to use a high heat primer, a color matched base that matches the front calipers, and a 2-part clear. This hopefully will give me a lot more longevity, as well as being a perfect match to the front calipers. So here's everything that you'll need.
So ignore the dirty garage floor. It's dirty on account of being a garage floor. To do this job, you're going to need a ratchet and socket set. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you're removing soft brake lines from hard lines, or if you have a bolt that you can't put a socket over, you'll want to have a line wrench set on hand, also called a flare nut wrench or secure hex wrench. For wheel lugs, a breaker bar and or heavy duty impact wrench, a jack and jack stands, masking materials. Here I've got some high heat primer, a color matched base, and a 2-part clear. Wheel chocks, sanding materials for prepping your surface, a mask and gloves, if you can find some, #coronavirus. In fact, I actually have a respirator around here somewhere that I've lost and haven't quite found yet. Oh well. A bottle or other container for catching old brake fluid, and some tubing for bleeding your brakes when you're done. And of course, new brake fluid to top off your master cylinder.
Hey! I found it! It was in my laundry room for some reason, but anyway, it's here now. Also here is one of my calipers, and you can really see just how much worse for the wear it is now that it's off the vehicle. But don't worry, this will end up looking a lot better when we're done with it. But before that, I've got to get all this other paint off of here. Alright guys and girls, so this is what we've got. First things first, it's not perfect. You can see that there's a little bit of paint still kind of embedded in some of the lettering. There's some kind of down in some of these crevices and things like that, but for our purposes I think this will be just fine, and short of having a brand new set, I think this is the cleanest I've ever had them. So like I said, I think for what we're doing this will be okay. It wasn't too bad to get to this point. It was kind of one of those things where about 90% of the time was spent doing the last 10% of work. So used a wire wheel to go ahead and get the bulk of everything off, and then just some acetone with a toothbrush to kind of get into some of these crevices and hard to reach areas to clean them up, and then a little bit of hand cleaner just to get some of the general road grime and brake dust and things like that off of there. So next thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and mask everything off to go ahead and get it ready to shoot some primer. Okay, so here's what we're left with, and I know this may look like a little bit of a mess, so let me explain a little bit. So
Obviously, I'm going to be painting, top sides, any kind of exposed surfaces and whatnot. I don't know that I want to paint inside where the brake pads are going to be. Two main driving reasons. One, it's still a little dirty in there, so I don't know how well paint and everything would actually adhere anyway. Two, I really just don't want to mess with any kind of mating surfaces or anything like that. I just kind of want to leave that the way it is. So I've got all this taped off. What I have done though is I've back masked a little bit, so that way I don't have a hard line where the paint ends. It will kind of feather in a little bit. And then I just painted off, or I taped off where my handbrake assembly parts are, where the banjo bolt is, bleeder valve, all that stuff. The brackets themselves were a lot easier. Just taped over these boots for the guide pins, and that's really all that needs to be done for that. So next I'll just go ahead and start shooting some primer.
Alright, so I thought I had some painter's plastic and I don't, but I do have a tarp. Hey, it's not dumb if it works, right? So for the priming, I'm just going to be following the instructions that are on the can, which is to get off any loose paint or dirt, which we've done, down to a bare metal surface. That's where it is. And it says just to put a few light coats a few minutes apart, and then to recoat or paint after an hour. So I'm going to put a few base coats down of the primer, leave and go run some errands, and then I'll come back and I'll start putting on the color. See how it goes. Alright, primer's been on for about 2 hours. I'm going to go ahead and do the color now. I'm going to use about 10 to 15 minutes as my flash time, and I'll just do as many coats as it takes to get the color that I'm looking for. So 2 to 3 maybe a little bit more, but we'll see.
Alright, here we are. It's the next morning. Everything's dry. Personally, I think they turned out really good. It's a little hard to tell, what the surface finish is like, just because these are, metal casting. So, like here's a flat surface right in here where you can kind of see how the clear came out. But all in all, I think it's as good as I probably could have asked for. So I'll go ahead and get the masking pulled off, and we'll get a better indication of how it all looks. Alright guys, here we are, the full reveal. Got a front caliper here just for color comparison, and granted, yeah, they're going to be about 8 feet apart and behind wheels and all that, but hey, it's one of those things, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. And I'm really happy with the way everything looks just here on the table, but let's go ahead and throw it on the car, get everything buttoned up, see how it looks as one complete unit.
Hush. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe.
Okay guys, so that's gonna do it. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.
You can